Hello, and welcome to another edition of Medicare Simplified with your host, Dave Miller.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Medicare Simplified. I'm your host, Dave Miller, and it took a little work, but I got a gentleman from one of the companies I represent. His name is Greg Biesecker. He's in the upper echelon of one of the companies. He's going to help us learn about the changes in Medicare for 2025, and there are a lot. Some of them I actually am quite fond of. The others I'm a little weary of, and I'm not quite versed on everything until the end of this episode. So give me 1 second. I'm going to transition him in, and we're going to get this on the road. Hey, Greg, thanks for taking some time out of your busy day and joining us to help us learn about the changes for next year.
Thanks, Dave. Glad to be here.
Give us a little background on yourself and how you got into the insurance business.
Sure. Yeah. I had a good friend in college, and she went to work in the insurance industry in 2004, and she was in the commercial side of the business. And she goes, "Hey, Medicare is hiring because of all, if you recall back to the Part D rollout in 2005, 6. Hey, we need some insurance Medicare reps." And I said, "Oh, what would I do?" And she goes, "You'd work with seniors all day." And I said, "Sign me up." So it's really got me into it. So that was nearly 18 years ago. So I've had various roles throughout the insurance industry, but majority of my time is spent within Medicare or selling individual health policies as well. So worked for a couple different carriers, but right now I'm working at the local Blues plan, and I lead the sales and product division for the Medicare.
And if you're anything like me, you love what you do.
Yeah, it's always fascinating when you work with the senior population, the Medicare population, and what you can learn. It's always been an adventure, and love what I do. So it's great to take care of people because eventually, Dave, will be there, right? And hopefully there's people that are just as kind and generous supporting us as we retire. So
Well, we can hope. And I know Medicare and Social Security are two of the most confusing government programs on the market, which is why I'm doing this podcast and why I'm so fortunate to get people like yourself, Tom Kennedy, Ashley Mountain, on here to talk about different aspects of it. I got Jeff Belemo from Elder Law to talk about nursing homes and how to prepare for them so they didn't get wiped out. And anything you hear on this podcast is just for your educational purposes. We are not telling you what to do, how to do it, or when to do it. We are just trying to help you educate, learn, so you don't make mistakes and you get it right the first time.
Yep.
So, Greg, 2025, CMS put out, over almost 2,000 pages of changes. It was great for curing insomnia, but it was so confusing. I got the gist of some of it, but could you give us a brief description of what we're looking for when it comes to the senior market and what the people on Medicare can look forward to next year?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, there was hundreds of pages that, like you said, it's light reading. It keeps you up at night. But overall, CMS made a lot of changes. Some applies to the beneficiaries if you're on Medicare. A lot of the changes apply to the carriers that represent your insurance, and there's a mixture of hospital changes, et cetera. So what we'll focus on today, is around Part D, right? And the changes to the prescription drug program itself. These changes have been in play for probably since early 2023, excuse me. So if you recall, where they capped insulin copays at $35, in 2024 they put in some restrictions on no more catastrophic coverage if you get past that donut hole. And 2025 is really where what they refer to as the Inflation Reduction Act. Really where the main changes come into play. And that's where CMS is capping total out-of-pocket expenses for a senior or for a beneficiary at $2,000 in the given year. It's actually going to be more simple as we move forward into 25 to calculate, these drug costs. And the donut hole, which everyone loved for the past, 18 years, is finally going away. But there's also a flip side to all this. It could increase costs. for some beneficiaries, but overall, what CMS is trying to do is simplify and create opportunities where they max out the most amount of cost a senior can pay for prescription drugs.
And the deductible going to $590 will have to be met prior to any money counting towards that 2,000. Is that correct?
It would all be included.
So the $590 counts towards that 2,000?
That is correct.
Okay,
Yep.
I wasn't aware of that. I thought it was the other way around. I thought you had to meet the deductible and then they started counting it towards the 2,000.
The whole thing would be total $2,000 in aggregate for the full year.
Okay, so what do you have to do to sign up for this?
Yeah, great question. There's going to be a lot of information that CMS or Medicare itself will be advertising this come late summer. So we're going to have a lot of TV commercials on Part D changes and politics because we have a presidential election coming up. So I think we're going to be overly burdened with all the changes moving forward. But overall, you'll have a couple ways to enroll if this program makes sense. Not everyone will make sense for this program, and we'll talk about the details here in a little bit. But overall, you can sign up at the pharmacy itself or contacting your Part D carrier, your insurance carrier. So if you have a Medicare Advantage plan or a standalone drug plan, you reach out to your carrier in October, as early as October 1st, and they can provide the details on enrolling into the plan or seeing if it's a viable option for you.
Okay, so if you start Medicare, say in November, then you would do it at that time too, also, right?
That is correct. Yep. And all changes, Dave, would take effect January 1st. So I just want to make clear that this is in 2025 and moving forward. So even if you enroll in October, it wouldn't show until January.
Now, if I were to opt into this program, and let's say, for my example, I opted in during annual enrollment, and here it is February or January 17th, and I go to get, I mean, I'm not on any meds right now. So let's say I'm on Eliquis and I go to pick up my 30 or 90-day supply of Eliquis. Do I just walk in, thank you, and walk out the door? How does it work?
Yeah, basically, right? So each carrier will have a different program. And what I mean by that is who's administering the benefit for them. There's a lot of vendors out there today that that you can sign up with. Our carrier, our plan will have its own vendor. And at the time that you're picking up your medication, you'd still show your medical ID card, right? With your prescription drug benefits on there. And at the point of sale, that you'll get a $0 bill, and the carrier will pay 100% of the drug cost at that time. You walk out the door.
So you, is in, I go pay 100%.
Yes.
So nobody's paying anything. You are taking 100% of the hit, or how is this getting broken down as far as the final payment towards the prescription?
Great question. So if you recall back to the cap of $2,000, so if you, for an example, had a $500 medication in January, and that medication would then, if you went and filled the medication, you'd have a $0 copay or co-insurance, depending upon the type of plan you have. The carrier itself would start billing you installments monthly. So that $500 would be spread out amongst the remaining months of the year, pretty much equal payments. I'll keep the math easy here. And then you'll receive a monthly invoice for that medication. Now, each additional month that you go fill that medication will add to that monthly installment or monthly bill you will receive. So when you get to the end of the year, you may your expenses from being, let's say it was $50 a month, you may have $200 or $300 you owe the insurance carrier at the end of the year. So it spreads out your medications throughout the rest of the year, but it will backload those medications toward the end. So instead of paying it up front, it spreads. It's almost like I refer to it as layaway, except you get the medication. You get it then there. You don't have to wait for it. So
I guess you could call it a layaway program or maybe a prescription drug line of credit.
Correct. Yeah. It's called copay smoothing, is
I like that.
the terminology, but I think people can understand layaway if you were shopping in what, the 90s, right? I think that makes most sense for people.
So that means you guys have to track how much they've paid towards the out of pocket. And then once that 2000 is done, you guys just pay 100% and you don't get any money from anybody.
Great question. So after your total drug costs reach 2000, and it's an aggregate too. So there's two components of this, Dave, I want everyone to recall. CMS is putting a cap on total drug costs of $6,000. So because of how Part D works, you said it earlier, you have a deductible phase. Then you have your, once you meet the deductible, you have your initial coverage phase, which is typically a 75-25 split where the Medicare beneficiary pays 25% of the drug cost. Well, if the total retail cost of your medications reach about $6,000, that's when you hit catastrophic coverage. So it's what you pay plus what Medicare, the carrier pays, etc. But if it caps at 6,000, that goes into what you refer to as catastrophic or it ends. When that occurs, Dave, either the beneficiary spends 2,000 or the total drug costs reach 6. Us as the insurance carrier are now spending. We're on the hook for 60% of the drug costs moving forward. So that is a big change. Where today we'd only be responsible for 20% when you hit that catastrophic coverage. So they are shifting the responsibility over to the carrier, and less responsibility on Medicare or the pharmaceutical company itself. I think a lot of the changes coming down, they're trying to negotiate drug costs with pharmaceutical companies for those high cost medications. So I think there's kind of be a give and take between the carrier, the pharmaceutical company, and the pharmacy itself, the PBM, right? Everyone's got a stake in this, and what we're trying to do is help seniors manage costs as best as possible. But it's going to be a big shift because now the cost is coming to us as the carrier, and not a lot of it was bared by Medicare itself or the pharmaceutical company. So, the challenge is going to be how do you spread that cost out? Insurance is about spreading cost, and it's not about necessarily it's not necessarily going to save anyone money unless you are really a high utilizer of brands or really expensive medications. Then this program itself will be a great help for those.
Well, everyone, as you can see, there are some changes coming up that are going to be kind of complicated. Greg and I are going to get more in depth on this on the next 2 editions. So make sure you tune in for all 3 of these. And there's going to be a 4th part to this that I alone will be talking about for people who have started Medicare Part A only and have not gotten Part B yet. Some serious changes coming up that will affect you in a negative way. So make sure you hit that little subscribe button down there. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you know when the next edition is available. And please tell your friends about this. This is important information for anyone on Medicare and anyone who's getting ready to go on Medicare in the near future. I look forward to seeing you again soon and continuing our journey and the discussion on Medicare 2025 with Greg and me. Have a great day. If you've enjoyed this podcast and don't want to miss future episodes of Medicare Simplified with me, Dave Miller, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to check out my book, Medicare Ready, Set, Go, available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle format. If you're looking for Medicare advice, please reach out to me at dave@mig4u.net or online at mig4u.net.